Happy Wednesday, IBC family. Christina Villena here with our midweek devotion. And this week, I actually want to read from Psalms 34, 1 through 22. I'm not going to read all the verses, but I am going to focus in on a few. It starts off with, I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. His praise. That's my thanksgiving to God. When it says his praise, it's my thanksgiving to God. Will continually, that's never ending, be in my mouth. And that's how this portion of scripture starts off. And it goes on to, my life makes its boast in the Lord. Let the humble and afflicted hear and be glad. Other translations for my life are my soul. And in the Hebrew, this word means in all its passions and all its desires. That's what that word means. And we continue on into that verse and it says, shall make boast in the Lord. This means to shine a light on him. Making boast in the Lord, you're shining a light on him. So when you read the verse again with some clarity about some of the translations and what it says, you can read it back like this. All my passions and all of my desires will shine a light on God. In other words, everything I say, how I act, what I think, what I do will be focused on God. It goes into verse 3. Oh, magnify the Lord with me and let us exalt his name together. That's unity. That's family. And if you've listened to my devotions in the past, you'll know how much I love the word magnify, as well as the word focus. So let's go back to, oh, magnify the Lord. What does that mean? Make him important. Make him big. He's already big, so make him big to you. When you magnify something, I even have a little magnifying glass here. When you magnify something, as you can see right there, you make it big to yourself from when you're viewing it. You begin to see things that you never saw before. Different facets, colors become more vibrant and bold, and you get to see things in a different light. So when we magnify the Lord, we begin to see more facets of his glory, of his beauty. We see more of him and who he is to us. When you magnify something, you're really focusing in and you get to see all these things. I mean, he's already big, but when we magnify him, we are making him big to us. We are putting him present in our life and in our mind and in what we see. And we're making him big in our lives. As a teacher and a scientist, when you put something under a microscope or you get out a magnifying glass, why do I get out a magnifying glass in my classroom? It's because kids have questions. Let's go find the answers. A scientist put things under a microscope to get their questions answered. Magnifying. We magnify it and suddenly you hear, oh, I never saw that before, or this makes sense, or I always wondered what that was. And then when you put it under a magnifying glass, you get to suddenly see it. You get those questions answered. And you get to look closely at it. It's a focus, right? It's a tunnel vision. When you think of a scientist looking down a microscope into the magnifying lens there, they're so focused. They're not paying attention to all of this. They're focused on what they're trying to see, what they're trying to make big. They're trying to see all the sides of it and really get to understand what they're looking at. Then they block out everything that's going on around them. When we magnify God, he becomes bigger to us. He grows, and we are focusing not on the problem around us, but on the provider himself. And that's important. When it says, oh, magnify the Lord with me. Why? Because I don't want to magnify my problem. I don't want to look at all of this. I want to magnify my provider. When we magnify him, we block out everything, and we begin to find the answers we seek. And I want to really quick jump over to in Ephesians. You know, right now, me personally, because my midweek devotion is always my personal devotion time that I kind of share with you guys, we have a lot of questions unanswered in our life right now. A lot of changes in this world that has changed our path and trajectory. And a lot of things that we just don't know. But I know that God says we can know. But it's a matter of, am I going to magnify him? Am I going to study him and make him big to me and block everything else out? In Ephesians 1:18, it says, the eyes of our heart are flooded with light. The eyes of our heart are flooded with light so that we can know and understand. We can know and we can understand the hope to which he has called us. We can know that. And so that we can know and understand what is the immeasurable and unlimited and surpassing greatness of his power in us and for us, because we believe. And you can jump over to Colossians 1:9. It says that we can be filled with the full, deep, and clear knowledge of his will. We can be filled with it. Of his will in all spiritual wisdom. The Amplified Classic says, in comprehensive insight into the ways and purposes of God, and an understanding and discernment of spiritual things. So we can have this light. We can have this knowledge. We can have our questions answered. But how do you get questions answered? You look under a magnifying glass. You magnify it. Magnify the Lord. Magnify. I'm going to jump over into Psalms 35:27. It says, and this is a little into that verse, it says, let the Lord be magnified, who takes pleasure in the prosperity of his servant. So I want to look at that again. It says, let the Lord be magnified. You remember, that means let him become big to you. Focus in on him. Dive so much into him that you block out everything else and you begin to see all the facets and you get your questions answered. Who takes pleasure. That means takes delight in. It makes him happy. What does? The prosperity of his servants. In the Hebrew word, servants means worshipers. And I love that. Because we worship God in song, yes, but we also worship God with our income and with our serving. But he takes pleasure in the prosperity of his worshipers. That's what servants means in Hebrew in that verse. So let's look at it again. Let the Lord be magnified, who takes delight in. It makes him happy. The prosperity of his worshipers. Prosperity, I heard Sarah Hart Pearson's describe prosperity. It's a completeness, a soundness of body and mind and soul. It's your health, your peace, your protection, your safety, your friendships, your family. It's all of that. That's what the word prosperity encompasses in this verse. So let the Lord be magnified. Focus on him. Make him big to you. Dive into him so much. Let him be all you see and focus on, and let his word become what's real to you. Because he takes pleasure in, he delights in. It makes him so happy to see your completeness in every area and aspect of your life, including friendships and families. And he takes delight in that because we are his worshipers, because we are magnifying him. He takes delight in and loves to see how much when we do that and we're getting our questions answered and we're diving into him, he's able to fulfill what he has for us, and it just makes him so happy. So I want to circle back to that word really quick, magnify, before I close out this midweek devotion. When you think of a scientist, you think of someone who's focused in. I've talked about that, what they're looking at, right? So a scientist, if you can envision a movie where you see a scientist looking into a microscope and everyone around them is busy doing stuff, they don't notice the chaos around them. They're so focused in, but they're in the same room as everybody else. So when I was reading this week and listening to God and just reading about magnifying him, I really had this vision or visual, not a vision, of right now in this world, we're all walking in the same world right now. The whole world is walking out crazy right now. That's kind of the season that's happening. And I'm in a predicament as so many people right now, especially with schools going to all online where I'm from. It's created a whole new world of just what are we going to do and how is this going to look? So you're walking in reality with everybody else. That scientist is in the room with everybody else. But when we magnify God, when we hone in on him and make him big to us and put our focus on him, then we can be in the same reality as the person next to you, but I can be walking it out in peace and in joy and in love, and I can have this great life in the midst of all this that's happening, while the person next to me is constantly in anxiety and fear and so stressed out and I don't know what I'm going to do, and they're constantly just talking about it and talking about the problem and talking about their fear, and they're like, what are you going to do? And you're able to be like, I'm just going to seek God and it's going to be okay, right? So when you magnify God, you can have a way of living that doesn't deny the reality. I'm not denying that I'm in the same predicament as a lot of parents out there. I'm in the same place if I don't know what I'm going to do and I don't know what it looks like. But I know that instead of looking at the problem and allowing that anxiety and fear and stress and worry to come in, I'm going to block it out and I'm going to magnify God, because he takes pleasure in my completeness and he takes pleasure in watching me succeed, and his favor is there. And I'm going to magnify him to get answers to my questions, because that's what a magnifying glass does. You get to dive in so deep, you suddenly see the answers to what you're looking for. So you can be living life to its fullest and enjoying every part, not because you're better off than the next person, but because you are making God what's big in your life, and you're not making the problem what's big in your life. The more you magnify God and he becomes bigger and bigger to you, the more you begin to see his vision. You begin to see his answers. You focus on the provider and not the problem, and you're able to live in this perfect peace which transcends all understanding that's found in Philippians. So I want to encourage you today and this week to magnify God this week. Make him big in your life, bigger than the problem, your fears, your anxieties. When the world is crumbling around you, and refuse to fear. Walk and want to focus in on the one who can, because I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. You can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. If he's before you, nothing can be against you. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. He has not changed. And when we have done all, stand. It says that in Ephesians. When we've done all that we can do, stand. But I'm not going to stand looking at my problems and trying to figure it out in my own nature. I'm going to stand magnifying my provider until I get that light that shines in your heart, that gives me the wisdom to find my answers. So this week, bless the Lord at all times. Let his praise continually be in your mouth. Magnify the Lord and exalt his name, for he takes pleasure in the completeness, the prosperity, the wholeness of you, his worshipers. Have an amazing week. Bye.